Hi guys, Aaron Dorr here with the Missouri Firearms Coalition. If you're a gun owner in Senate District number 20, you've had life pretty spoiled for quite some time in Jefferson City. The incumbent state senator in this race, Eric Burleson, has done more to expand gun rights here in Missouri than any lawmaker alive and perhaps ever. Eric was a lead sponsor on constitutional carry, stand your ground law, lifetime carry permits, castle expansion, and last year's Second Amendment Preservation Act. Of course, Eric is leaving now in a congressional run, and that's making this big Republican Party primary shape up right now in the newly redesigned, redrawn SD20. The new map here is a little bit different. It's a lot different than what it was in the past. You've got Barton County, Dade County, portions of Greene County, and Webster County. So it's quite a bit different than how it's looked in the past. So it's an open seat primary featuring Representative Curtis Trent, who is leaving the House and running for the Senate seat, and Brian Gelner, a newcomer to politics who runs a beer and soda wholesaler distribution company in the greater Springfield area. So our job again here at the Missouri Firearms Coalition is to give you guys the information on who is going to be the fighter, who is going to lead the charge to defend our gun rights. We all know how this works, right? Again, it's a Republican Party primary, and it's Missouri. So ordinarily, everyone raises their hand and says, I'm pro-gun, I'm pro-gun, I'm pro-gun. The question we always have to ask is, well, okay, are they pro-gun as in like Eric Burleson was pro-gun? Or are they pro-gun as in like Roy Blunt always said he was pro-gun until he stabbed us in the back last month and voted for a massive gun control bill? You know, what version of pro-gun are we talking about? So what we do is to survey all the candidates and get them on the record for or against your gun rights. Sometimes the candidates answer, sometimes the candidates don't. Here's a little hint for the candidates. When you don't answer the survey, you just answered the survey. And we compile the survey results with our working knowledge of these candidates as individuals and as office holders and give you guys kind of a picture, a snapshot of how these guys, or gals in some cases, will vote on your gun rights if they're elected to Jeff City and under the gun. That's the question. It's easy to be pro-gun when there's no pressure on you. How will you act when Republican rhino Senate leaders like Caleb Rowden are pressing you to hold back this bill in committee? That's the real question, as we all know. So let's begin with Brian Gelner. Brian Gelner, again, not involved in politics, runs a beer distribution company, very well funded, has a lot of friends in the establishment class here in Missouri, across the state. And Brian has refused to sign his Missouri Firearms candidate survey. Now, as you've heard me say before, when a candidate won't sign the survey, it's a problem, because it ordinarily, in our experience, tells us that this candidate is not looking to keep his campaign promises, and the last thing he wants to do is break a written campaign promise to gun owners. They figure, hey, it's easier to not survey at all than to survey and then break my promise down the road. On the one hand, yeah, I guess it would be if your goal was to not keep your promise. On the other hand, though, what that means is that we have no idea how Brian Gelner would vote on a red flag gun seizure law. And make no mistake, in light of the federal gun control, which passed in D.C. last month, which gives almost $1 billion to the states to bribe them into passing red flag laws, we will see a renewed effort to pass red flag gun seizures here in Missouri. So how will Brian Gelner vote? He is refuses to say. There's going to be efforts to try to repeal portions of the important portions of Missouri's SAPA law. They tried it this session. We shut that down, as you guys remember. How will Brian Gelner vote on future efforts to repeal SAPA? The rhinos in Jeff City, they hate it. They had to pass it because of the pressure of Missouri Firearms Coalition members, but they hate it, and they're embarrassed by it. And they want to strip out the important parts to make it kind of a boring bill. How will Brian Gelner vote on that if elected? He won't say. Banning AR-15s. More and more Republicans want to do that. How will he vote? We don't know. How about universal background checks? We don't know. Will he vote to expand stand your ground law? It's a big topic here in Missouri. Yeah, Missouri has stand your ground law after a fashion, but we have a bad version. What we have here in Missouri right now puts the onus of proving the innocence on us. So if you draw and display or actually use your firearm to stop a criminal, you have to prove your innocence. This is America. We're innocent until proven guilty. That's the axiom, right? But not in Missouri when it comes to self-defense. Here in Missouri, we have to prove our innocence instead of the government having to prove our guilt. There's a major push on right now in Jeff City to change that and bring us into compliance with what dozens of other states have already done. But rhinos hate it. Rhinos hate it. How will Brian Gelner vote? He won't say. I took a little bit of time and kind of perused Brian's website. I wanted to see his issues tab. What does he believe? What does he care about? What is he passionate about? He didn't mention guns once. Didn't mention anything about it at all. No Second Amendment, nothing. No mention of firearms at all. And I got to tell you guys, in Missouri, in a Republican Party primary, that is highly unusual. That is a very big warning sign to gun owners. So if you see Brian Gelner, the question is, why won't you survey with the Missouri Firearms Coalition? Why won't you put your views in writing? Why won't you just come out on paper, sign the dotted line, and vow to defend my gun rights? Why won't you? And if Brian says, oh, don't worry, I'm pro-gun. Well, so is Roy Blunt, right? Until he's not. That's the whole point. Talk is cheap. We want to look at actions. And since you're a non-incumbent, we need to see a candidate survey to figure out where you stand on our most fundamental freedoms. He won't sign it. That's the question you need to ask him. Why not? That's Brian Gelner. Now let's discuss Representative Curtis Trent. Curtis Trent, longtime fighter for gun rights in the state house in Jeff City, surveyed 100% pro-gun with the Missouri Firearms Coalition. No surprise, given his long history of fighting for gun rights. And again, a lot of candidates can sign a survey. I mean, Brian didn't, but other candidates can sign a survey and they don't actually mean it. They're just trying to get support at election time. When it comes to guys like Curtis Trent, their record lines up with the survey. That's a very comfortable thing to gun owners across the state. So Curtis surveyed 100% pro-gun, but I want to be clear on this. When he says he's not ever going to vote to weaken SEPA, you can believe that because Curtis Trent fought for SEPA in the House just last year. In fact, Curtis Trent was the chairman of the General Laws Committee, which was the first committee hurdle we had to pass to move the bill forward in the House. And Curtis Trent moved SEPA through Gen Laws before any other substantive bill moved in the entire session in 2021. He did that because we went to him and said, Curtis, we need all the time we can get to pass the bill out of the House into the Senate and finish the fight over there. We can't have delays, especially in Gen Laws in the House. Help. And he did. He made it a priority. He got the bill out immediately. And that wasn't easy. The rhinos hated that. The media was attacking him. It was a big old push. Curtis Trent stood tall and got that done. Curtis also publicly opposes red flag gun seizures, even the kind that the rhinos want to push because it brings about federal bribe money if we implement them here in Missouri. Curtis Trent's 100% opposed to any form of red flag gun seizure laws. 100% supports our right to own an AR-15 here in Missouri. That might seem pretty basic. Well, it's not. It's not anymore. More and more Republicans support the idea that we have to ban dangerous assault weapons, right? They don't know what assault weapon means. They don't know what semi-auto means. They don't know what full auto means. But by goodness, it's black. It's got a magazine and it's got a big extendable buttstock. It must be scary. It must be bad. They want to ban it. Curtis Trent says hell no. And again, Trent supports the idea of expanding stand your ground law here in Missouri to fix the problems that we have right now, where instead of us having to prove our innocence, the state has to prove our guilt. If that seems like a small thing to you, remember the name Mark McCloskey, right? Like we all know what could happen now with a Soros-funded, psychotic prosecuting attorney who wants to send a message at your expense. If you have to draw your firearm and threaten somebody, God forbid shoot somebody, if you're in the wrong county, your life will be destroyed. Even if you're cleared by the governor, like Mark McCloskey was, even if you're found not guilty, like Kyle Rittenhouse was in Wisconsin, that trauma, that year, 18 months, 2 years, the criminal side, the civil side, indictments, all these things, that is not easy to go through. Even if you're wealthy and if you're poor, it is impossible to survive. And the problem we have right now with our current system is all the cards are stacked in support of the government. None of them are stacked in your defense. Curtis Trent, if elected, will continue to lead the fight to expand stand your ground law here in Missouri. So you got kind of a clear picture here, right? You got one guy who won't say anything about gun rights, won't say anything about fighting to defend your freedom, won't even lift a finger to mention the Second Amendment on his website. Not even that pathetic Shutterstock, hunting picture. Nothing. And you've got Curtis Trent. Years of fighting for gun rights in the House, a 100% survey, and again, backed up by actions, under pressure, under fire in Jefferson City. So if you see Curtis Trent, thank this man for fighting for the Second Amendment, for helping us pass SAPO law here in Missouri, and for his 100% pro-gun candidate survey. And again, ask Brian Gelner, what's your problem? Why won't you survey? What are you trying to hide? These are the questions you guys need to ask. Time is of the essence. Act quickly. Contact them both. Share our video, guys, on social media, and join our fight today at www.joinmofc.com.